Tari thought he was going to visit his sister. But that trip led him straight into his friend's trap. Tari was 31 years old, young, ambitious, and full of dreams that stretched beyond the creeks of Bayelsa. In Yenagoa, where the roads met the rivers and laughter filled the humid air of the evenings, he had quietly built a good life for himself. He was not born into privilege. His father had been a fisherman who rose before dawn to cast his nets, and his mother, a market woman whose hands always smelled faintly of smoked fish. From them, Tari learned two things: dignity and diligence. He grew up believing that hard work could rewrite destiny, and through persistence and self-discipline, he turned that belief into his own reality. By his early 30s, he had established a modest logistics business, helping companies and traders move goods within Bayelsa. His small office in Yenagoa was simple but organized, a reflection of his character. Those who knew him spoke of his humility and generosity. He carried himself with quiet confidence, never boastful, always willing to help. Among all who surrounded him, one person stood closest to his heart: Prey, his childhood friend. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, studied at the same schools, and shared both hardship and joy. Their bond was one built over decades, and Tari trusted him completely, never once questioning his loyalty. When his sister Ebiea invited him to Ogbia for a weekend visit, Tari welcomed the chance for rest. It had been months since he last saw her. She was his only sister, and her home always carried the warmth of childhood memories. The thought of seeing her family, sharing laughter, and eating her cooking brought him quiet excitement. Early the next morning, he packed a small bag, made a few calls to arrange work for the next day, and began his journey. The silver Toyota Camry glided along the open road as the cool morning wind blew softly through the half-lowered windows. Palm trees lined the highway, their fronds swaying lazily in the light breeze. For Tari, it was one of those peaceful moments where the world seemed perfectly balanced, where life felt kind and simple. When he arrived at his sister's home later that day, she received him with joy. The house came alive with laughter and warmth. The evening was filled with food, stories, and comfort. For a moment, he felt like a boy again, far from the pressure of work and the noise of the city. His sister was proud of the man he had become, and her husband admired his quiet success. They spent the night sharing family memories, unaware of how fragile the next day would be. The following afternoon, after saying his goodbyes and promising to return soon, Tari began his drive back to Yenagoa. The sky was pale blue with soft clouds drifting lazily above. Halfway through his journey, on a lonely stretch of road surrounded by thick forest, two young men on a motorcycle suddenly blocked his path. He slowed down, confused. In an instant, fear replaced calm. They forced him off the main road and down a narrow, muddy track that led into the forest. His mind raced, his thoughts scattered between disbelief and dread. Before he could react, he was dragged out of the car, bound and blindfolded. The world around him turned into darkness and noise, the heavy breathing of strangers, the rustle of bushes, the sound of distant birds. When the blindfold was finally removed, he found himself beneath a large tree, deep in the wilderness. The air was thick with heat and the scent of damp earth. His heart pounded as he realized what had happened. The men who took him demanded ransom. They wanted 1,000,000 naira, a sum far beyond what he could easily produce. Fear gripped him, but he tried to remain calm. His family would worry, his sister would panic, but he believed help would come quickly. In his mind, he thought of Prey, the one friend who knew everything about him, even where he kept spare cash in his home. That thought gave him small comfort. Back in Yenagoa, panic spread like wildfire when his family learned he had been taken. His mother wept until her body shook, while his father struggled to remain composed. His sister's heart broke with fear. In desperation, they turned to the one person Tari had trusted most, Prey. Prey appeared calm when he heard the news. He offered to help, saying he would gather the money and ensure Tari's safe return. The family, already drowning in panic, placed their hope in him. They gathered what they could, their savings, borrowed cash and contributions from relatives, and handed everything over. But Prey had no intention of rescuing his friend. He was the architect of the abduction. For months, envy had been growing quietly in his heart. He had watched Tari's business thrive while his own life remained stagnant. What began as admiration had twisted into jealousy, and jealousy, unguarded, had turned into greed. He had convinced himself it was harmless, just a quick plan to take a little money and frighten his friend. He never meant for it to go too far. That evening, instead of delivering the ransom, he disappeared into the city, waiting for things to calm down. Meanwhile, the kidnappers, nervous and impatient, abandoned the forest hideout. They took Tari's car and fled, leaving no trace of the man they had taken. Days became weeks. Weeks turned into months. There were no calls, no messages, no sign of Tari. His family clung to hope, praying, searching, asking questions no one could answer. The mother refused to believe he was gone. Every knock on the gate made her rush to the door, her heart pounding with fragile faith. Prey began to unravel. The weight of guilt pressed heavily on his conscience. He avoided the family, stopped answering their calls, and isolated himself. The image of Tari, kind, trusting, unsuspecting, haunted him. Sleep became difficult, peace became impossible. He told himself it had been a mistake, that he never wanted harm to come, but the line between intention and consequence had already been crossed. Months later, fate intervened. During a routine police checkpoint near Sagbama, a young man driving a silver Toyota Camry was stopped. When the officers ran the plate number, it matched the record of a missing vehicle linked to a kidnapping case. The driver claimed innocence, saying he had bought the car from a local dealer. Investigations began. The trail led to the dealer, and from him to the two kidnappers. Within days, they were arrested. Under interrogation, they confessed everything. Their fear was evident, their remorse shallow. They revealed that the plan had originated from Tari's friend, the one who had promised to help the family. They named Prey. When the police came for him, Prey tried to run. His legs trembled, his heart pounded, but the truth was faster than he could ever be. At the station, surrounded by officers and silence, the weight of his actions broke him. He wept not for Tari, but for himself, for the ruin he had brought upon his own life. He insisted he had never meant for his friend to die, that it was supposed to be a simple plan, a harmless scheme. But the world does not forgive betrayal so easily. After months of investigation, the case went to court. The courtroom was heavy with grief. Tari's family sat quietly as the judge read the verdict. Prey and the others were found guilty and sentenced to long years in prison. Ebiea wept softly, her tears falling onto folded hands. Her brother was gone forever, and the man who took him away had once shared their home, their meals, their laughter. The weight of that realization was unbearable. Outside the court, she stood under the grey sky, her heart numb. The wind carried the smell of rain and dust, and she thought of her brother, his laughter, his kindness, his gentle nature, all gone because of trust misplaced. News of Tari's fate spread quickly across Bayelsa. In markets, offices, and churches, people whispered his name with sadness. His story became a quiet warning. It reminded everyone that betrayal rarely comes from strangers, that envy can wear the face of friendship, and that some smiles conceal deep resentment. In the months that followed, his family struggled to move on. His mother's health declined, and his sister often sat by the window at night, staring into the dark, wondering what signs she had missed. She thought of the warmth of that last visit, the laughter, the peace, the normalcy, and how quickly it had all vanished. Tari's life became a memory, but his story lingered, spreading from one voice to another. It became more than a tragedy, it became a lesson. Trust, she realized, is one of the most fragile gifts a person can offer. Once broken, it can never be whole again. In the end, Tari's story was not just about death or betrayal. It was about how greed corrodes the heart, how envy turns affection into poison, and how even the purest friendship can be destroyed by a single act of deceit. And so, the memory of a young man full of dreams became a lasting echo, a reminder that not everyone who walks with you truly walks for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more true life story.